Welcome to This Is Real Life with Jen Blossom, where we talk all things that make us most uncomfortable. From abuse to addiction and trauma to recovery, nothing is off limits. My guests and I will expose the parts of ourselves that hold the most pain and share the freedom that is possible. This is real life. Okay, I'm so excited, you guys, to have my friend Erica on today.
Hi.
It's exciting because even though we're still COVIDing, still feel like I can chit chat with friends, that's like the funnest part about this, right?
Isn't it amazing that this has to be what we get used to? Hopefully not forever. It won't be forever, but for too much longer.
But I mean, even so, I feel like you've got 2 kids. I've got 2 kids. We're both doing our mom thing.
Yep.
Life is busy enough anyway. So it's kind of fun to carve out an hour of our day to chat.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to throw out this disclaimer that it is COVID time, right?
Mm-hmm.
I call this parenting in the time of COVID. Did you ever read that book, Love in the Time of Cholera?
No, but I've heard of it, but I never read it.
It reminds me of parenting in the time of COVID. It's just like, here we are, this is what we're doing. So my parenting story of the day is that the kids are in the pool and I have bribed them with everything possible to be quiet during this recording. So if you hear screaming, no one's dying. They're just playing mermaids.
Got it. Hey, mine too.
Yeah, Bennett's the shark. We've got the mermaid, the shark, the whole thing. So, and Jeremy my husband is downstairs. I'm not sure, how good of parenting is happening, with him, but,
right.
without me.
Yeah,
but
I've got mine's upstairs.
Yeah.
I had to bribe all 3 of them, not just the 2 little kids.
Oh, I know. I mean, shoot, I'm bribing my dogs. Don't bark. Because the microphone picks up everything, literally everything, which is kind of fun, but at the same time frustrating when you're trying to edit.
For sure.
Anyways, okay. So, Erica and I met, and this is really funny because we actually have multiple friends in common.
6 degrees of separation.
That don't know each other. Right. So it's wait, I met you at this thing with this friend, but lo and behold, you're actually really good friends with this girl that's a friend of mine. And so that was super fun.
It is. It's really cool. I feel like it's kind of like a God thing when people come into your life that way.
It's super fun. I mean, I love it. It's just so great. So anyways, Erica is going to share with us about her journey. And you know what? Here's the cool thing. So during COVID, what I've really started to notice is the moms and how we're superheroes, the good moms, because listen, not all moms are good, but there are, and I did a podcast on a friend of mine. Her daughter had a congenital heart defect and was dying of heart attacks at 6 months old. Another friend talked about cystic fibrosis, being a mom of a girl with cystic fibrosis, which is hard. And then you add COVID, right, on top of it. Yep. And so today we're talking about food allergies, and not just
that's us.
A little bit of food allergies. We're talking major food allergies. So, so tell me a little bit about yourself. Where do you live? Your kids, how old they are?
Okay. Obviously, I'm Erica, and we live in Newport right now. We used to live in San Diego. My husband's from there. I went to college down there. We had both of our boys in San Diego. My son Braden, he is 7, and he's just finished remote learning in 1st grade.
Which I don't even know what
awesome.
That is.
Actually, I do have to say our school did an amazing job with it. So
I'm sure. You know what? That's the thing. I mean, I feel like everybody really did try their best, but at the same time, you can't I mean, this has been the craziest time ever. So we're just, doing the best we can. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So he just finished 1st.
Yeah, he finished 1st. And then I have another son, Rylan, and he is 5. And he had, it's part of my story, but he was able to actually go to preschool with me this last year. So he is finishing preschool. So, and they both.
Well, you know what's okay? That's another thing because Bennett's name, we were throwing around the name Rylan.
You
Remember
were?
I told you that?
Yes, I do remember you telling
Yes,
me that.
and I thought, listen, I always think I'm being so unique with names. Like I know you're gonna my kids' names are not unique, but I legit think I make them up.
No,
'Cause I legit thought that I was a genius with Addison. I thought, "Oh my gosh, just take the M off of Madison."
and you have
Like, I
Addison.
literally thought I was a genius, and
You
then
are a genius.
then everybody I was like, "Wait,
Well,
wait a
that just means
minute."
there's more than one genius.
Okay, well, there yeah. Well, anywho, and then but Rylan was one of our names for
Oh, that's
Bennett, and then
great.
Bennett won, but I
Been a
loved Rylan. Both
Oh,
Jeremy and I did. So,
yeah.
anyway,
Well, it's funny because Braden and Rylan were on the top of our list with Braden. And then when I got pregnant with a second boy, I go, oh, okay, using that one.
perfect. Yes,
So
good
anyhow,
stuff.
yeah.
Okay,
So
so you currently stay home with the kids?
I do. We kind of made the decision when we started a family that I was going to be home with them. Before we had kids, I kind of did a few different things. But I was a teacher, and I think that has actually been one of the most helpful jobs that I had prior to
I
having
think
children.
that's why we're friends too, because
Um,
we're teachers. Okay,
yes,
like
right.
you can't. I always say you can't teach someone to be a teacher. You're born a teacher. Like that's just who
Yeah,
you are. It's a part of your makeup. You know.
for sure. And I think it's just, I have that compassionate piece with kids.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at connecting with kids and
Yeah.
maybe understanding them. And then I think when you're a teacher, you have to be a little bit type A, OCD. You got to be really organized. And I think all
Yeah,
those things
which is
just,
I feel like with COVID life, I'm the complete opposite. Like,
oh,
because
yeah,
I feel like I either, like, am gonna control it or, like, be honest with myself and say, like, I can control nothing.
it's so true.
So
No,
I'm
and
like,
it's actually been a good test for
yeah,
that we
I
don't
think
have
so
any
too.
control.
Totally.
So, and actually,
And
but
it's
what's
gonna
been
be okay.
interesting, yeah, and kind of what's been interesting with the whole COVID thing is my husband and I have had this conversation so many times in the last 2 months that being a food allergy family and already having to kind of live a restrictive lifestyle, already really having to think about where we go, what we touch, washing our hands, did my kid come in contact with their food allergen or their environmental or their animal allergen? These were already things we were constantly thinking about before. So not to say that COVID hasn't been tough or
Yeah.
it's necessarily been much easier because of it, but just the parallels have been
You know what?
interesting.
It's so funny that you're saying this because both of the other moms that I just currently interviewed, the CHD and then the cystic fibrosis, both of them said the same exact thing.
Did they? Yeah. Well, I
My
think,
life isn't
families who deal with, everybody has something. And that's one thing I
right.
just, before I share all of this, I don't feel like I'm a victim. I don't feel like we have it harder than anyone else because everyone's got something.
That's right. We all
And
do. Absolutely.
yeah, I think,
But it is so funny that you say that because it's true. Your life hasn't changed that much. Like you live like that anyways. Like same thing with the face mask and the breathing with the whole COVID thing. Like that's like her normal life. Like they wear face masks because she's got cystic fibrosis and she's a
yeah,
little girl. Like,
yeah,
like this is just what she does. And so it was so interesting to hear her and then you and then my other friend just talk about being, hypersensitive to things because these are awful. These are I don't want to say deadly, but like these are like big deals, right? For your
yeah.
kids.
Well,
Where as
they
opposed to
are
mine.
deadly. I mean, like,
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
like, sometimes I'm already kind of a dramatic person to begin with, but
Right.
at the
Right.
risk of sounding dramatic, I mean, I'm constantly worried about
Yeah.
my children's life, literally
Totally.
life.
Well, then
And
let's start with
yes, okay.
Braden. So let's
So,
start. Okay. So he was,
and that's really how it unfolds is he was born in 2012,
uh-huh.
7.
Hmm.
And first time moms, you read all the books. I read all the books. And by the way, no book talks about food allergies.
Ooh,
And,
we should write one.
no, there aren't really a lot of resources out there to prepare you for food allergies. There's a lot of things that those books don't prepare you for. So,
No joke.
yeah. But
How
you
come
just,
nobody told me this?
I
Well, I
know.
think it's one thing to write it down and it's like, oh man.
Yeah. And you got to live it.
That
So, but we
totally.
were pretty naive going into it. Braden always had eczema. He always had super rosy cheeks, and he would go in and out of bouts of eczema as a kid, as a baby, really. And I just kind of, put a cream on. The pediatrician would prescribe this or that,
Mhm.
and we'd get it under control. But
Mhm.
I kind of started suspecting that he had food intolerances, or I called them allergies, but I suppose I didn't really understand what anaphylaxis meant back then.
You are
Um,
educating me and a lot of people. So use the big words and we're gonna.
Yeah, so he had this eczema, and not to say that every kid that has eczema has anaphylaxis. So it's not to scare parents, but I think that there was a lot of warning signs from
Mm,
Braden and then from Rylan that pediatricians, lactation consultants, dermatologists, the people just missed,
yeah.
and we missed. And now, I don't try to fear monger, but I want people to understand, if your child is experiencing certain things, you just want to pay attention to it.
Totally. You know what the
So
other thing is? I wanted to say really quick. You
yeah.
just said something that was interesting that both of the other moms talked about, and they both said, I just knew that
Hmm.
something I just knew. Like there was something in you that just knew. Like you suspected it was
So
something
true.
else, right? Like to trust that part of you.
Yeah.
I think it's
And
so
it's
important.
hard. I mean, I think from like my personality was, I'm not, well, not or wasn't, I hope I'm being self-aware, but a very aggressive personality. And I would try to people please, and I didn't want to burden people. And so having something extra that you have to deal with your children, it's really kind of taught me how to speak up, be an advocate, not be afraid to say what I need or what my kids need. And
Totally.
that's been a huge lesson. So, but
Love
it
that.
didn't come over. I mean, it was not overnight. This was like
Right.
a very gradual process. And because of how naive we were about food allergies with Braden, we kind of just, I always like never ate a lot of dairy. Didn't make my tummy feel good. So I thought, oh,
Mhm.
maybe he's got a dairy allergy. So I was, omitting certain things like wheat and eggs and dairy when he was first starting foods. And then when I breastfed till he was a year, and when I weaned him, I put him on goat's milk because
Yep.
some
Yep.
book told me that was
Yep.
the way to go, and it
That's
was great.
right.
It was fine. He had no problem with it. And right around the same time, I had given him peanuts. I had given him almonds. No
Okay, can I stop
problems.
you really quick? Did
Yeah.
you ever have any allergies?
So, which that's a really good question, because I think, yes, I do. And my husband does. So my husband has pretty chronic environmental allergies. He's
Okay,
not anaphylactic, but he's just always blowing his nose and sneezing and
got
all
it,
those things.
got
And
it.
then I don't have food allergies. I might have some food sensitivities like
Okay,
dairy,
okay.
but I have a very severe allergy to aspirin and sulfa.
No
So
way. What
back in
happened?
when I was a kid in grade school, they gave me a shot of epinephrine, which now I know is an EpiPen.
Mhm.
I swell, I get a rash,
Wow.
and yeah, and if you have two bodily functions responding at the same time, that is when you really need to intervene. And I know it's scary
What
for a
does
lot of
that mean,
people.
2 bodily what does that mean, 2 bodily
Yeah, so if you have two, kind of the rule of thumb is, if you have like one bodily function would be a skin, so
Oh, oh,
hives,
oh, oh, oh.
rashes, swelling. A
Got it.
separate one would be like a GI, throwing
Yes,
up,
okay.
vomiting. Yeah, so
Okay,
something like that. Yeah,
yeah.
and then
Okay.
breathing's
Okay, so
another.
you
Okay,
both kind of had
yes,
something, but it wasn't like something that,
no,
like, you
yeah,
like
yeah.
Zyrtec couldn't help or something with.
Exactly. And, I just avoided aspirin. That's a
That's
super
right.
easy one to avoid. No big deal.
Okay.
So, yeah, so that's actually important, because I think it does play into the theories as to why so many kids nowadays have severe food
Ooh, I
allergies.
can't
But
wait to hear that at the
yeah,
end.
so,
I'm excited.
okay, so
Okay.
Braden, basically what happened with Braden was I had made kale chips with cashews one night when he
Uh-huh.
was, I don't know, a little over a year, and served it to him. He ate it fine. And then as I was putting him to bed that night, probably an hour later, he just starts kind of violently vomiting. And I called his pediatrician. The pediatrician said, well, give him some Benadryl. Of course, he just keeps throwing it up. And he said, okay, we'll just keep him in your bed tonight. And I was so naive. Of course, I was scared, but I just kept him in
You're
my
gonna
bed. And
trust the doctor, like.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I didn't really know, and he didn't really know. And so we just kind of slept in bed and he was fine.
Yeah.
And that was that. So that was kind of where I thought, something's not quite right here. So we went and had skin testing done for Braden, on the back testing where they do a little prick on his back.
Okay.
And it came up that he was really allergic to tree nuts, but not almonds, of course, because that was the one I gave him that he was fine with. And then also eggs. And so that was kind of, we knew, Kate, we got to avoid that. I was able to allow cow milk into his diet and felt comfortable with that. And we kind of just went on with life. I mean, he still had eczema. He still has eczema, even though he's been on this long journey. I think it's something that he'll maybe have for the rest of his life.
Got it.
So Braden was kind of the introduction to it.
Okay.
And then when we had Rylan, Rylan was born when Braden was a little over 2. And literally Rylan was born, and within the first week or 2 of his life, he was swollen, uncomfortable, never had a normal poop. They were always green or weird. It was really hard. And it was like, okay, let me try.
That? Like, was he like just always in a, okay, he was always
They
upset.
called it colic. So
yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, let's try colic calm and gripe water and all this stuff. And it was just, kept saying to the pediatrician, should I change my diet? Because for some ironic reason, I was craving dairy like crazy. And throughout my pregnancies, I was able to tolerate dairy. And I've heard of that happening for women. So I was eating a lot of dairy. I was eating all of the top 8 most common allergens, which is cow's milk, eggs, tree nuts, peanuts, shellfish, wheat, soy, and fish. So those are like the top 8, but and the most common, but by no means does that mean it can stop there, because Rylan had like 20 plus very severe anaphylactic allergens. So he was just uncomfortable, and it was just a really kind of dark time being a mom, because like you said, that mama's instinct about, something is wrong. It was so strong in me with Rylan. I just knew he was not well. I knew he didn't feel well, and I didn't know what to do. And the doctors kept saying, don't take the dairy out of your diet. You need the protein. Don't take this out of your diet. You need to have a balanced diet. Even my hippie lactation consultant was like, don't take it out, So, I just kind of listened, but he got eczema so bad and rashes so bad that he would tear his skin up. I mean, I had to keep his nails so short. And then finally, around 5 months after, try this cream, try that cream, do this, do that. And just, I even went to like this lady who did kind of like sound baths. I mean, I was on the search.
Everything. Yeah.
I was just like, help me help this child. I will do anything.
Yes, totally.
Or biofeedback or whatever it is. So, I finally, his skin was so crusty and gross. And it was also kind of embarrassing as a mom. It's like, I have this beautiful little baby and everyone looks at him like, ew, what's wrong with his skin,
Yeah.
So I took him to a pediatric dermatologist, this lovely lady in San Diego, Dr. Cunningham. I just love her. And she looked at him and goes, oh, that's staph. And she checked him. We biopsied, and sure enough, he had a major staph infection that, had that gone untreated, could have gone into his bloodstream and taken his life. I mean, that's pretty darn serious. So it was at that point that I said, I'm going to sorry if I shouldn't say that.
No, you can say screw. You can say screw. You can say
screw what all these doctors are saying. Yes. I'm taking all this stuff out of my diet, and I'm going to start following my instincts and not listening to anyone. So I did. I took everything out. He was on an antibiotic to get rid of the staph. The staph infection went away. His skin cleared up. He was happy. It was just like, oh my gosh, I have a baby. And that was like around 6 months. I still knew that he had issues, and I was obviously thinking it was food allergies. So then after about a month or 2 of literally I ate like fruit, vegetables, and protein. It was awesome because I started to lose weight, which was cool. Which the whole other issue with me is my own body image, which ironically food allergies has helped me with that as well. Just being aware of like why we eat food and that kind of thing. But so he was clear and doing well. And then I decided, okay, I'm going to start reintroducing these things back into my diet one at a time.
Yep.
And I was nursing, and then I'll eat it, and then I'll nurse him, and then we'll see what happens. And I eat eggs, I would nurse, an hour later he'd get highs. I
Oh
eat
my gosh.
shrimp, I'd nurse, and I would separate it. So
Yeah.
one a week or one
So
every
you
2
knew.
weeks.
Yeah.
I did that with all the top 8, and pretty much all of them, with the exception, I think, of wheat and milk, he broke out in hives. And so I thought, oh my goodness, okay, so this kid's got some issues. And at 9 months, our pediatrician said, I think you should introduce dairy because he didn't react when you ate it, and it's good for them to get that calcium in the introduction. So I remember it like it was yesterday. It was in the morning, got my Whole Foods organic plain yogurt,
Mm-hmm.
and one tiny little spoonful, put it in his mouth, and immediately he started like spitting it out, and just within maybe 30 seconds to a minute, just started violently vomiting.
Mm.
He violently vomiting. I took him to the room. I took his clothes off. He was covered in rashes and
Mm.
hives. I mean, this is a matter of minutes. And
Yeah.
again, I'm still kind of naive, even though, Braden had an EpiPen and we'd done testing and we knew he had allergies. It was kind of like there wasn't a lot of education.
Yeah.
And so it was not smart of us, but we got in the car instead of calling 911, and we drove to the ER, and they brought us back right away, like did not
Yeah.
even, hardly even had to check in. And right away he was continuing to vomit, and he was swelling like a tomato. I mean, this kid was, I was looking at him like,
Oh,
I think like my son's going to die.
oh my
And they
God.
gave him an EpiPen,
Wait,
and it
how old
didn't,
was he? How old
he
is
was
he?
9 months.
He's 9 months old right
Mhm.
now. Oh my God.
And EpiPens are hard on your heart. So I thought, it's adrenaline. I thought, oh my gosh, this little kid, is that okay? And they said, well, we have to. And
Right.
then the first EpiPen didn't work. It wasn't enough.
Oh my
And
God.
that was when there was like 10 doctors standing around our bed, and they said, we have to give them another EpiPen. And they said, we know it's hard on their heart, but we have to. So we did it. And I think this whole episode probably was about 10, 15 minutes, something like that. But,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think they were worried that he wasn't going to make it. So, but he did. After the second EpiPen, his body started to calm. It didn't go away, but, and they put him on steroid IVs. And then we spent like 2 days in the PICU.
Oh my God.
And that was like really life changing. Just experiencing that, like that almost feeling like I'm going to lose my son. And also just being in the PICU. I mean, there was like heart surgery going on next to us. I mean, there was a lot of really heavy stuff going on in that ward. And it was
That's
just,
exactly what the other moms were talking about too. That
yeah,
how like crazy and eye-opening it is to like have your kids be
yeah,
in the pediatric ICU and
yeah.
and knowing that some of the kids that are in there aren't going to make it.
Oh, yes, absolutely. That was, yeah, because there was one I think that didn't when we were there, and
Oh my
it was
gosh.
it was awful.
It's
It
gnarly.
was,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
gnarly.
So
Um,
yeah, it was very heavy, but that, truly for me, I feel like that was a turning point, because that was when I said, this is really serious for our family, and we need to like get more information. And
how is your husband during all of this? Like, I mean, I would assume you're like, this is a big deal,
yeah,
like this is, and then like, is your husband or is he like more chill? Like,
he's
I don't.
definitely more chill than me, but he is always got my back and always supports me, and was just as frightened as me. I mean,
Right,
we had Braden with us. I mean, he had to be sitting with Braden out in the lobby for some of it. And we would take turns with Rye because
right.
Braden couldn't come in, but he is great. And I would say, I want to always lift him up, because anytime that we disagree on things, because maybe I'm being more cautious, or I'm, maybe if I'm showing more worry or more attention to things, he always defers to me because ultimately I'm the one that handles most of it.
Yeah.
I mean, he handles a lot of it, but he goes to work and I'm
I
the
know.
one who's managing the food and managing their treatment
Yep.
and all this stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, we all at that point were kind of like, whoa, we all got to get on board. So we did skin tests or blood work with him when we were in the ICU, and we discovered that his IgE numbers. So IgE is immunoglobulin E, and that's the antibody in in our bodies that
Okay.
people produce when they have an allergic reaction. So everyone
Why do
carries
people
different.
have allergic reactions?
So it's kind of like a misfiring of our system.
Okay.
It's not supposed to be that way, especially when it's to something that's not supposed to harm you, but your body is basically seeing it as this is harmful
Okay.
for me. So I need to produce all these IgE, all these antibodies to protect my body
Okay.
from this poison. And then that's when you get hives and rash and swelling. And it seems kind of counterproductive. Like, you know,
No,
I
I
I
mean,
can't have that. So I'm going to close my throat up.
yeah, right.
but yeah,
Okay.
it's
And
not to laugh at
so
it, but
so you did the test and you find
yeah,
out
he's got like, oh my gosh, like 20 plus anaphylactic allergens. And the thing about blood tests and skin tests is that they're not 100% accurate. So you kind of have to look at the blood test, the skin test, the patient history, all these things in conjunction to kind of like come up with, what's really going on. And
yeah.
so some of the foods we were like, I don't really know about that because he's kind of had that, but we don't know. And then others we thought, oh, well, we for sure know he's allergic to that. So we really just had to avoid everything. And
So and are these just when they're ingested or like when you're around it or like
for Rylan, and again, like we are a severe case, but for Rylan, it's to the touch. So that was really hard when he became more mobile or like wanted to go to the park. We could not go to a park without breaking out in hives. So we could not go to a
you mean
friend's
he?
house. Rylan, yes.
He would get hives if he went to the park because he touched something that
Uh-huh.
had something on
Yep.
it.
Yep. It
Wow.
was like he would touch, a kid had maybe some yogurt on their hand and then went to the park and went
Holy
around and there's
cow.
invisible yogurt on the handrails and he touches it and then he would break out in hives on his arms or his like neck or his face because he touched his face
I
with
see.
whatever he touched. And, God forbid he sticks those fingers in his mouth or in his nose because that could onset an anaphylactic reaction. So,
Okay, hold on. My next question is this. Did you vaccinate your kids at all?
yeah, yes. And Rylan reacted to the vaccinations.
Oh my
So
gosh.
Braden did not. I vaccinated Braden just like, okay, I'll vaccinate my kid.
That's
But
right.
Rylan at 6 months, at the 6 months vaccination, we left the visit and I was at the grocery store and he just starts breaking out in huge hives and gets
Mm.
really red. And I went back to the pediatrician's office. They gave us Benadryl and we sat there and it went down.
Okay.
But we later discovered, even though the pediatricians didn't advise me to do this, I said, I don't want to vaccinate with you. I want to vaccinate with an allergist.
Mm.
And we found
Oh, I didn't even
another.
know that was an option. See, this is the thing
Mhm.
about all of this. I didn't even know that you could do that.
Yeah, well, they'll do it graduated. So
That's that.
and we did it one at a time. And
Yep.
then, I mean, poor kid, you had to break the
Bring them back every
vaccination
day.
up
Yeah.
into 6 doses. You got to get poked 6 times. And
Right.
But yeah, we found out at around a year because we started doing his year vaccinations, graduated to figure out what one he was reacting to. We realized I think it was DTaP and MMR
Which
because
is which is the one that most kids are, right? Like if you're going to be
sure.
allergic to one of them, it's that one or you're going to have a reaction.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's funny because they have dairy. This allergist was awesome. She found that dairy was used in the making of this vaccination, but like way far removed from the process. So it's not even listed as
Wow.
on the basic paperwork. And so she had to dig really deep and found that there was a study with kids who had super severe dairy allergies that they reacted.
Oh my
So I mean, like even like when I buy foods, if it says, lactic acid on it, or if it says sodium lactate or whatever it is, I mean, I know
You have
that
to know.
that is dairy and or
Wow.
could mean dairy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, hold on. So, how old is Brayden during all of this? Like, so Rylan gets the vaccine. Well, hold on. Rylan got the vaccines at 6 months, but then he
Hmm.
didn't end up going to the ER until 9 months, right?
Right. And then we avoided because we were talking about contact, how he reacts to the touch.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And so we just like avoided foods and it
So,
like,
but hold on. So, but does Brayden go to school yet? Like,
yeah. So, well, okay. Actually, Braden, so Rylan was just a little, Rylan had his 9 month ER visit right before Braden was starting preschool.
okay.
So Braden hadn't been in preschool yet, but I had him enrolled, and it was just so, I felt like, I remember thinking like God's timing is so perfect because it encouraged me to advocate for Braden's food allergy more at
Mm,
preschool. I
mm,
had the EpiPen, I had all this stuff, but I didn't really think, I probably would not have made such a big deal with the school as I needed to had this not
mm.
happened to us. And so I did, but ironically, um, like about, I don't know, quarter or third of the way into his first year of preschool, his teacher forgot that he had a trina allergy.
Oh no.
And so this is after, this happened with Rylan. She forgot that he had a trina allergy and served him, we think it was a walnut cookie. And
What?
they,
Kids don't
yeah,
even like walnut cookies.
I know. Well, what's funny is Braden, she said that Braden like had a bite. It was probably like, those pecan sandies, but
Yeah, 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 yeah.
it's probably
Right,
something like that.
right.
But yeah, she said he took a bite and kind of didn't like it and spit it out. So he really only had one bite, but he started reacting, like getting itchy and hot, like red on the carpet.
Ugh.
And they didn't, and I don't want to sound like I'm not, well, I am kind of mad at the school, but I think what needs to happen is that schools need to be prepared. And even though the school told me that they felt prepared, and I felt that they were prepared because we'd had all these meetings and discussions. And I mean, even that morning, it's so weird. That morning I dropped Braden off, the teacher said to me, I got cookies for a birthday today. And again, this goes to show like how naive I even still was with Rylan. I said, oh, great. I said, did you check the ingredients really closely for his allergens? And she said, yep, I checked them. We're all good. And I went home and I thought, oh,
I better check
I,
them.
sh- I
Yeah.
should have checked that. I should have checked that. And I kept I knew it was going to happen. I kept my phone by me
Mm.
all morning, just kind of waiting. And then sure enough, they call me and they say, don't want to alarm you, but Braden's kind of itchy, not feeling so good.
We
We have
don't
him in
want
the
to alarm you,
office.
but your
I
kid's
know.
having an allergic reaction.
Yeah. So, but what was really scary is I luckily was 10 minutes away and I drove over there with, Rylan and his carrier and all this stuff. And Braden was in full on anaphylaxis.
Oh my God.
And they could not find his Benadryl. They hadn't given him that. Not Benadryl won't do anything for anaphylaxis. You have to epi. But it was literally like if you've ever taken a first aid or CPR class, and they're like, you get to the scene, you assess it, you call 911,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
go
yeah,
here.
yeah.
I mean, it was
Yeah,
literally
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. I saw my son. He had 4-inch hives all over his body. His ears were swollen. His eyes were swollen. He was red. He was drooling. He was lethargic. He was like
Oh my
hunched
God.
over. I know. And I immediately, I gave him the EpiPen, and with Braden, almost immediately it started working. The EpiPen, I mean, I could visually see his body, the
Oh my God.
swelling decrease. And I think that is something I really want everyone to know. Do not be afraid to give an EpiPen
Okay.
because it can save their life. And even our doctor that we see now, he is even if you gave it and it wasn't fully necessary, it's far better to do that than to wait too long. And which is probably why it took Rylan, part of the reason why it took Rylan 2 EpiPens, because
Right.
he was so deep into anaphylaxis and
So
whatnot.
what is anaphylaxis? Oh wait, anaphylaxis is when two body systems.
Well, yeah, I guess I don't think it has to be 2 bodily functions to be in anaphylaxis. I think anaphylaxis just means that your body is shutting down and
Your
you
body is
you
shutting down.
you can't breathe. Anaphylaxis is when the airways close
I see.
and and then they no longer can breathe. And co, symptoms that come with that will be the hives or the drooling or the red rash or the red skin. And those are like, or even throwing up and diarrhea, like that all can happen with anaphylaxis. Um, so it's kind of weird how the timing worked because I'm dealing with all this stuff with Rylan. It's
Well,
making
I
me
mean, it makes
more
you feel like, okay, like I need to take this seriously because other people aren't, right? It's like they're obviously are not taking this very
truth.
seriously if they cannot find the Benadryl and there's no EpiPen. Like,
Yeah, it was really hard, and it was a lovely school, and to their credit, to the world's credit, people just don't know. We just
no,
don't we
I
don't
know.
talk about it enough.
So I got to tell you a story that I have. So
Yes.
my kids are allergic to nothing. Okay. These kids are
Eat it all.
savages. They eat everything. They touch everything. It's like not a thing. Well,
Mhm.
we had, actually, you might even know this. We had our nephew live with us for a year.
I remember that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's a whole other ball. I mean, this is a whole other chapter of
Yeah.
the craziness of my life. But
Sure.
he came out here and he's 10 years old. Like I mean, if I have no idea if you have an allergy, I assume you tell
Mhm.
me, or maybe if your mom tells me, I don't know.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, I knew he was a picky eater, but like, I mean, most kids like French fries, chicken, I mean, very simple stuff.
Mhm.
Okay. Long story short is my son, Bennett loves Lara bars. Like,
Yep.
and
Got
so
you.
it's like, and for me, it felt really healthy because it's very simple ingredients. It was like nuts, um, dates and sea salt. Like that was it. It was just
Yep.
all mushed together, whatever. So our nephew was hungry and I only had those bars at the bottom of my bag and I was like, here you go, bud. And he opened it up. He ate it. And he immediately was like, my stomach's upset. And I was
Oh.
like, oh, well, then maybe you should eat that. Maybe you just
Mhm.
should eat it. We get home. He is legit throwing up.
Mhm.
He's having a severe allergic reaction. I have no idea that he's allergic to these things.
Yeah.
I mean,
How
that
would
is
you?
gnarly. But to have not have had a nut until you're 10, like, did that not happen before? Like, do you just automatically,
Uh,
like, randomly get allergic? I mean, I have no idea.
Well, I think what's interesting is he may have always had it and just been lucky, but you also they can develop over time. Like for instance, Rylan is really like allergic to lentils and peas, but he ate those when he was under a year old. And
Okay.
then slowly but surely he started getting hives and I thought, oh God, okay, we got to limit this one. And Brayden is so allergic to dogs right now. Like or
Mhm.
today we're working on that one with our allergist, but when he was, I was just looking through photos the other day. These are pictures of him with my friend's dog licking him all over his face,
Yeah.
and he was
Okay.
fine. But I remember now he gets,
Goodness
it
gracious. So
can
why doesn't the doctor just give everybody an EpiPen? Because we just won't freaking know. Like,
because they're $600.
okay,
They're
that's a
so
good point.
expensive.
But you know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? Like
yeah.
you don't know what you don't know. Like that's
No,
the
it's so
point of
true.
this podcast is that someone would listen to this and
Yeah,
that hopefully one day it would save a life because this is a
yeah.
really big deal. And for me, by the grace of God, I mean, and
He was
this is
okay.
the Lord. I literally gave him Benadryl. He had hives. His tongue was swollen, but I didn't know. I didn't even know.
Yeah,
I just thought he was having an allergic reaction. Come to
yeah.
find out, because then then he starts to live with us, and so I have to take him to the doctor and get his well check, whatever. And she's
Mhm.
like, "Oh no, I'm prescribing an EpiPen. Like if that
Mhm.
happened, then he's definitely allergic, and you should be aware and have this at all times, and give one to the school and the whatever." Oh, the other
Oh,
thing is he had asthma. Oh, that's right,
oh
and
my
we couldn't
goodness,
breathe.
it's like a double whammy.
I'm like, but I don't know. Again, you don't know
Yeah,
what you don't know, and here I am. Thank the Lord that he didn't that he was
yeah.
saved and spared because it could have been a lot worse.
Could have been
So,
a lot. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I don't know, advocating for your kids like is everything because they can't
Mhm.
advocate for themselves yet, right?
It's so
That's
true.
our job.
And
So,
I think
anyways,
I think that there's with like for instance with food allergies, I mean, I can't expect every environment to be safe, every place we go to be safe.
that's right.
But just like this podcast and I've become a little bit more vocal on my Instagram page and I'm learning to speak up with like my friends and my families and set boundaries
Yeah.
with people.
Yes.
You have to just let people know what's going on and still I have people who either don't believe me or think because I already was a little bit, I don't know, maybe must be a little neurotic or a little
Mhm.
worried
Well,
or
I mean, when
whatever
you're
you want to
all
call.
first-time moms are pretty,
Sure.
and then you have this on top of it. I mean, yeah, it'll make anyone a little crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and I, in some ways, I feel like it was by design as well, because if I didn't have kind of the ability to be aware of
Yeah,
details, I think it could be hard to manage all this. So
100%.
yeah,
Um,
so
yeah, so okay, so then what brought you up to from San Diego to Newport?
we opened up a brewery, a craft brewery up here called Gunwell Ales, and um,
Which is so
my
fun. Like,
I know it is so,
what
but
a
yeah,
rad thing to do.
it's pretty fun.
So fun.
So my husband opened it up with his two partners. One of his partners, his wife is my best friend, and we always like joke like if we hadn't have become friends because we used to teach together, this would never
Mm.
have happened. So anyhow,
Yeah,
we moved up
it's
here
really
for
you guys.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we moved up here and we bought my husband. He still works in San Diego as well, and he works for Sony, and that's his main job, you
Right.
know. So, but he invested and started this brewery up here as well. So we kind of felt like it was, and my also at the same time, my mom and my stepdad were moving here, so it just kind of made sense to
Got it. To
live
be
up
close to family.
here rather
Mhm.
than stay in San Diego.
Right.
We had two little kids, that kind of thing. But it was just like all meant to be, because we moved up here in the summer of, oh my gosh, what was it? Like, I guess 2016.
Mhm.
And my best friend, whose husband is also an owner of the
Mhm.
brewery, she forwarded me a promotional video about this Southern California Food Allergy Institute that her good friend from college had her son on the wait list for. And I watched it, and it's, basically about treating food allergies and basically desensitizing their bodies and their immune systems to their allergens,
Mhm.
and giving them food freedom. And I just thought,
You're like, "Sign me up."
what? I'm like, this is great. I mean, so ironically, or I guess I called and I said, okay, I left a message and I said, we're available Tuesdays, this. And then they call me back. They go, okay, our wait list is about a year to 2 years. So, I go,
Like,
okay.
"Okay, I'll pencil that in."
Yeah. So we got on the wait list.
Right.
And what's really awesome about it is that my friend Gina and her friend Natasha, who was in the program, we kind of became really close and good
Yeah.
friends, and she's been a really huge support for me through all of this, and I hope I've been a huge support for her too. But her son got into the program about a year ahead of us, so she's kind of paved the way, and is able to, she approaches and gets to certain stages of treatment before we do. But
Mhm.
that, but even though we were on the wait list, it was still about a year and a half, almost 2 years before we even got into the program.
Wow.
And so that year and a half to 2 years, we were seeing allergists up here, doing our every 6 month to 12-month back testing. And we even did a couple of food challenges, and some things we were able to reintroduce into Ryland's diet, like strawberries and wheat
Okay.
and those kind of things. But for instance, we food challenged soy, and he passed the food challenge, but then all of a sudden his legume response like went off the charts. And I just had it in my like mommy instinct. I thought, you know what, even though we passed the soy challenge, like I just don't really feel that comfortable with it. And,
Yeah.
and then when we got into this program, kind of jumping ahead, we learned that with kids like Rylan who have really severe food allergens, and what I've learned is all of their allergens are connected to other things. So
Oh.
Rylan has a very severe peanut allergy. Well, peanut is a legume, and that's why he has a lentil and a chickpea allergy, and that's why he has a pea allergy. And soy is also a legume. So they're all
Wow.
connected. So he just kind of got like, the
Yeah.
worst of the worst.
Yeah.
He got it all. And like, almonds are connected to hazelnuts, or walnuts and
Right.
pecans are connected. So they all have relationships. And then each of those foods has a relationship with our environment, trees and grasses and the
Mm.
pollens in the air. And
Mhm.
so my kids have really severe environmental allergies as well. And so it's all like this connected working that, for all these kids nowadays that are having all these food allergies, it's all kind of working together. And there's some
So, okay,
theories
so
that
wait, so you did eventually get into the program.
yes, yeah. So
So how does
so
that
then
work?
basically, so we're on the wait list. Finally get the call. I kind of made the decision that I was no longer going to do food challenges or anything of that sort. I was just going to hold tight, hang tight, wait to get into this program and tackle everything all at once with
What's a
Dr.
food
Randawa.
challenge? But what
A, a food challenge is when their skin tests and their blood work show that their body, their levels are safe enough to actually consume the food. So you'll go in. Each doctor does it a little differently, but basically you go in and you either eat a little amount and then a little bit more 30 minutes later and a little bit more 30 minutes later until you consume a certain amount of it. Or the way Dr. Randawa does food challenges, because he's done so much research on each individual patient, it's just a one-step process. So it's a little bit different in that setting. But
you decided you're going to hold off and you were just going to
yep.
do this up at
Yeah. So we started the program. It's called, a lot of people will hear about this OIT, oral immunotherapy. And that's what a lot of allergists offer. Even the allergists we were doing some appointments with when we first moved up here, but they couldn't treat a patient like Rylan because they can only at the time work with like peanuts and a couple tree nuts. But maybe they could have done something for Braden, but I wasn't going to do that. I was going to hold out for Southern California Institute one. So we basically get into the program. It's like 3 months of testing. They do blood testing, skin testing, IgE testing. They do immune function testing, lung function. They test their GI tract. They do overnight patch testing. I mean, it's like literally months of just testing. And what he's doing is just gathering all this data so he can basically come up with like an individualized plan for each of my boys and figure out how to tackle their immune system and to basically desensitize it. And then after all that, we started the program. And in the beginning, it's kind of like baby steps. They start with foods that are they're probably not, they've deemed they're not anaphylactic to, and in some instances it might even be foods that they're tolerant to, but they have to start having this in their system on a daily basis.
Okay.
Because it kind of like sets the groundwork for the harder foods to come.
Okay.
So like basically the boys have a list of recommended foods that they have to eat like 3 to 5 times a week, like stone fruits with the skins on, peaches, that kind of thing, apples and pears with the skins on, because all the proteins that people are allergic to are in the skins. They have to eat, Rylan has to eat beef and pinto beans and
oh my gosh, this is exhausting.
I
mean,
know.
are you like this is a full-time freaking job.
It is. It's crazy. And I think I'm not complaining. I am so grateful for it, but I think it's really hard for people to grasp, like, first of all, just how hard it is to have a food allergy. Like, we don't go to birthday parties, we don't travel, and a lot of it's because of how severe Rylan is. I know if it was just Braden, like our world would be able to be more open. But it's hard enough as it is just to restrict, but then like going through the program, it's a full-time job. But like,
well, you know what?
The light at the end of the tunnel, it's so worth it.
It's beautiful in your story because you're a mom who wants the best for their kid. Can you imagine the kids out there who don't have that mom? Like they don't even get this. They don't even get this chance.
Well, don't have the family who wants to do it. Maybe they're afraid or maybe they don't want to. But also, I mean, we are so fortunate that we can afford it.
That's what I'm saying. Yes.
But because it isn't cheap. And Dr. Randawa says he will not turn a patient away because of financials. But again, you have to commit to it. He won't work with families who aren't willing to commit to it. Because you have to, or else it doesn't work.
If your mom and dad are working 2 jobs, trying to support the family, they don't have the time to drive you to this food. Like, are you kidding? Like, it's crazy.
But they do. Oh my gosh, there's so many like my sister-in-law, for instance, she's like a working mom. Like she does it. Like it's like everyone, like you just figure it out,
Totally.
But
well, again, I'm commending you on being a mom and like
thank
knowing
you.
your kids sweet. And like being there for them and advocating for their wellness. So does this program work? Like how are they? Okay.
It is not easy. It doesn't mean we haven't had like hiccups. I mean, or bumps along the road, but it does work. I mean, Braden, I mean, basically, once you're kind of in the program, the gist is they have their recommended foods that I listed, but then they have maintenance foods that they eat every single morning. And those are foods that they've already challenged, or they've been either they worked on or
So
they've
like, is this
challenged.
to like get the body to just get used to it and not,
Yep.
okay, and
And it's
not like,
everyday exposure.
got
So,
it.
like, and then in the afternoon, they have a treatment food, and that's the food that they're working on. So, like, as an example, right now in the morning, I mean, I probably shouldn't even list it all because it's so much, but Rylan eats like, he's worked his way up to this, like 5 walnuts, 5 pecans, like macadamia nut, almond, camel's milk, goat milk.
So hold on.
um,
So what happens if all of a
yeah,
sudden he's like, screw this, mom. I'm not eating walnuts and I'm not eating pecans and I'm not like, will the allergy?
then I'm screwed. No, he's not. We won't. It's not happen. It doesn't happen.
Okay.
I feel like, I mean, the truth is if you have a kid that, like, I feel for parents who have teenagers going through this program, because I'm sure, I know that they run up against that. And then there have been stories where teenagers will like pocket their dose, or they won't eat their dose, and then they start having
Yeah.
reactions, and it's dangerous. So, and the truth is, it's not a cure. Like Dr. R always says that this is basically, we get them to remission, and for
Mhm.
the rest of their life, they have to eat a certain amount of certain foods to maintain, to maintain a tolerance
Okay,
to
so
their allergens.
have food allergies always been a part of like childhood, like an adolescence, like, and those kids
Not
just
like they
died,
are now.
like, like,
No.
or is it just it's so like that? Like, is it more prevalent now because of?
Yes.
Okay, and then
Much
what's the
more.
and is there a theory on that? Like,
Yeah, well, our doctor, I think there are theories. I don't think they can say this is exactly why, but I have my own theories
ooh,
mixed with
let's hear
everything
it.
I've read. But so our doctor, I put a lot of faith in what he says, and I trust him a lot. And he's not a political guy, but he was saying how basically, because in urban areas, food allergies are much more prevalent than
Okay,
in rural areas.
okay,
And part of the problem is that we have so many carbon emissions, and it's over pollinating all of our plants.
okay.
And when our bodies are bombarded with all of this, like, kind of unnatural over pollination, and then also just the toxicity of our
Hmm.
food and our food system and the things that we eat and things that we ate like 30 years ago that
Hmm.
our parents were feeding us. All of this stuff has just kind of like cycled through us and is now making all of these. I mean, it's up, I think I should have looked up their most recent statistic, but it's like up like 400% in the last like 15 years or something crazy like that.
Mm.
It was not, it's always been around, but it was not like this when we were kids. It was
You
not
know what's
this
so funny
prevalent.
is right. Well, listen, I don't know about you, but like I legit grew up on like Captain Crunch and Coke. Like we didn't
Yeah,
eat
Diet
like it
Coke or
wasn't.
like Wow potato chips or whatever.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's like full circle, and I feel like our bodies got the worst of it. And then
Yeah.
while our babies are in utero, so I mean, I'm there with you too. Like, I mean, there's something going on here. I almost think, why does the coronavirus hit some people so hard and others not? Like, why are some people,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
asymptomatic and others are dying? Like, there is something going on here, and it has to be individual things
Yeah.
going on. And, of course, I'm not like, I don't know anything. I'm just
No, I know. I
theorizing.
know. I mean,
But,
I didn't like,
yeah,
even
but
with
I
this.
I have to assume so. Do you think okay, so would you have done anything differently? Like, would you have not vaccinated? Like, do you think that that had a tie? Like, I wonder what's the correlation between kids who've been vaccinated and food allergies?
Hmm. I've asked my doctor about it. I wouldn't have not vaccinated them. Um, but like, for instance, I can't vaccinate Rylan while he's in this program because his immune system's too taxed. It like
Mm,
wouldn't, the vaccination it probably wouldn't work. Number one. And number two, it could onset a lot of reactions and other immunological issues. So, yeah, so I wouldn't have changed that. Um, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't. really change much of anything. I think that like this journey has been what it's supposed to be. And I think if anything, it was exactly what, I needed to learn how to speak up and
Mhm.
set boundaries and advocate for my kids. And, they are perfect. And even though they're different, I just, and even though I want them to have tolerance and, eat their damn nuts for the rest of their life so that they don't have like a reaction. Like, I just, I think I probably would just, encourage myself to speak up more and maybe like if I had known better, just pay attention to some of the red flags that I had seen initially.
It's so funny. It's like I think back to your story and I think to myself, honestly, you did everything you could have done. Like, I don't like
Yeah,
who are you? Like, if the teacher says to you, don't worry, I checked all the ingredients. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there has
sure.
to be a level of trust, and like, you can't blame yourself for that. There's this weird, anyways, I don't know. I think,
It's hard though. Like I mean, I have to say, like, it's like when you're a mom, you just like put your head down and you just do it. Like, I
yeah,
would do anything for these boys.
that's
But
right.
I think, maybe looking back, things that I should work on would be like my own mental health, just
Oh, girl.
it's a lot,
Yeah, it is.
like just,
Well, that's the other piece, right? Like, this has been such like a huge part of your life for 7 years, right?
yeah,
Like, it's almost like I mean, it's normal for you. What's abnormal for me is normal for
yeah,
you. Like, this is just what you do. Um,
yeah.
so do the boys know that they have food allergies, and are they angry? Like, how
Oh,
does that
yeah.
manifest
Well, they're not
itself?
angry, but they know.
Okay. So like they're like, "Oh, dang it, I can't go to so and so's pool party," or do they just not
Mhm.
know yet?
Well, it's kind of a mixture of both. I mean, Bobby and I do our best to try to protect them to what they're missing out on. Like if they get invited to a birthday party and Rylan cannot go to a birthday party. It's just it's
Right.
getting less unsafe, but it's just a very unsafe place for him to be. I mean,
Yeah.
the park is an unsafe place for him in some ways.
So do you guys have
But
okay, so wait, do they have friends? Like how
yeah, we socialize. But the truth is we do socialize, but it's hard. I have to socialize with people
who get it?
are who get it or are willing to get it or
Yeah.
are willing to kind of like not bring out that snack or not, or willing to do things that aren't food centered,
Yeah,
like
you know
and
what? It reminds me of like find your people, right?
yeah,
Like find your people. And in your case, your people are the people who get the food allergy thing or who are considerate of that, who
yeah,
are willing to put away their own desire for a Snickers bar so that they can hang out with you, right? I mean,
sure.
you find those
But it's
people.
hard, it's
Yeah,
our world is very small and I think honestly that's probably been one of the harder parts is like some friendships have changed and
absolutely.
we can't like go to our family's house for holidays. I mean
Mm,
it's we can if there's measures put in place, but sometimes the risk is not worth it. And then
yeah,
also, like you were asking about how the boys feel about it, sometimes it's not worth it it's not fair to them. It's not fair to take Rylan to a Christmas party where everyone gets to decorate cookies except for him. It's
100%.
just, it's just not right. And it's also not fair for Brayden that he sometimes has to miss out on things because of his brother. But we're so fortunate that we have like a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah,
There's a lot of disabilities that don't have a treatment that can get them to remission. And that believe me, like that is not lost on me when I
yeah,
think about what we're dealing with.
right.
So, but I think they're well adjusted. They are very aware. They know they have food allergies. I mean, we talk about it every single day.
Yeah,
Everything
it's a
my
big
kids,
deal.
yeah, it's a big
Life
deal.
and death. I mean, we talked about that earlier. I mean, but it really is, especially,
It
for
is.
Rylan, especially.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And Rylan, he had some issues this last year getting sick. I mean, I swear to God we had coronavirus, but I don't know. I had an antibodies test and it was negative, and we
girl,
actually
I thought
just
I had coronavirus. I was so sick in January.
I know,
Like,
me
girl,
too.
I should get tested just because.
Well, Dr. R, our allergist, he is doing antibodies testing just to gather data. He's a
And
really
you weren't
data-driven
sick.
doctor. Well, oh no, I
I mean,
was. I
you
was
weren't
so
positive.
sick.
Like, you didn't have it.
I did a Quest antibodies and it came back negative. So I'm assuming no, I didn't have it. But I also did it with Dr. Randawa, as did our entire house.
Mm.
So we'll see if that all comes back negative. Then I feel like then we didn't.
Right.
Great. but but it's been kind of scary because I know, like, just in regards to Corona, like, okay, it's not technically like hitting kids as hard, and that is all very comforting in a lot of ways. But in other ways, like, Rylan's on an inhaler because he has like respiratory reactions with his food, and when he got sick this winter, he just like could not recover, and so both of us had to go on an inhaler this winter, and he's still on it. And I just kind of ask myself, like, oh my gosh, like, I don't want to. We're already dealing with so much as it is. Like, I can't add another thing to the plate, So we're definitely playing it easy right now, and just,
it's a hard time for everybody.
keeping
And then
life
you
small.
add on top any other medical issues or anything like that, and everything just becomes exponentially scarier.
Yeah,
It's a rough thing. Hey, you
it
know
is.
what? Thank you so much.
Oh, thank
I feel
you.
like I learned so much. And I feel like I even could extend more empathy towards the moms, like, who have to bring in the special snack for like birthday parties for school or whatever. Like, I
Mhm.
feel like, I don't know, it feels more like something that I can understand. And I think
Thank
that that's
you.
the beautiful part about just being open and honest, is that it helps people understand. And I'm really grateful that you were able to share all this with us, because I do believe that it's an important conversation to have, especially with statistics being as high as they are. So I'm just grateful. And
Oh,
I can't wait to like do this interview again in a year and see where everybody is, with their walnuts and stuff.
yeah. Well, I genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for just
Mm.
like giving food allergies a voice. And
Yes.
I hope I did it justice.
You're
There's
so
always,
well spoken. You must be a teacher.
oh,
Like,
stop.
you did it great. And by the way, you even provided like show notes. Like, who are you? Like, we need to do this together, because I am
Oh.
so not as organized as you are,
Oh my
especially. Yeah.
goodness. Well,
Well,
I'm
all
just
right.
excited that I got to chat with you.
Yeah, girl. All right, girl. Well, thank you so much. And we will chat soon. It's been a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
All right, girl. Bye.
Bye.